there's this one video that I made in Texas. I can't even believe that I made it. Like, I watch it and I'm like, this looks like a TV show. I filmed it all in one day and I edited it in a week. Like, I'm like, damn. I was like, I'm fucking good. You know what I mean?
Welcome to episode 1 of the 4MEDIA UNCUT podcast. We got some special stuff on this one. We figured before we even have guests on the show, we want to make sure you guys know who we were, knew everything you could about us and our stories and how we came to be and how we ended up working together. And instead of absolutely boring you to death and asking you to listen to us for 4 hours on the first episode, we actually cut this episode in two for you. So you'll notice the first episode is actually Mr. Andrew Deitsch's side of the story. And then the second episode is myself, Eddie Maalouf's side of the story. And we're going to kind of go into our backgrounds, what we've done, where we've came from, and how we became the people we are today. Not that we're anything special or anything like that, but we want you guys to know who you're listening to and maybe why you're listening to them as well.
Not to impress you, but to impress upon you that we're cool.
We're not looking for any sort of validation, but like a 5-star review would really be awesome. You know what I mean?
So buckle up. It's a wild one. And yeah, enjoy the ride.
That being said, you know, I'm Eddie Maalouf, founder of 4MEDIA Marketing. You can look it up if you don't know what it is already. We can get into my story later. But I'll start by asking you some questions, Andrew. You go back.
Sure.
And then for everyone listening, all the episodes we filmed so far and probably moving forward, we have very interesting people on the show, like super interesting people, some that are young, some that are old. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, different pasts, but all of them have like a very interesting story with some sort of financial or specialty-ish success in whatever their space is. So some people made a lot of money. Some people are just the best at what they do specifically out of everyone that I know in the world. These are very high-level, high-caliber individuals that are sharing things on the show that they probably haven't shared. You know, some things are said before. Some things have never been said. We've had people cry on the show. We've had people share stories that their best friends didn't even know about them, like watching it live on the show. But most importantly, it's just, you know, a lot of value from seeing how these people perform on their everyday lives, what created who they are. And so I think it's only fair to start the first episode by doing the same for ourselves, right?
I agree.
I'm sure you're about to learn a lot about me too. I'm going to learn a lot of things about you right now. My own wife, who, by the way, is actually hosting the show.
She's behind the decks.
Welcome, everybody.
There you go. Plug yourself in. She's off camera. You'll never see her, and there's a reason for it. You better keep your eyes off her. But Andrew, you know, give me a little background. So Andrew and I met at probably at Lifetime Fitness.
I think so. I honestly, we might have met through Vima first.
Okay.
I think that's how we first
If you did Vima, like DM me personally and just tell me that shit, because I want to see how big, because I know a lot of people did. How many of these listeners actually did at some point in their life? But yeah, Vima with network marketing. So that's probably how we met, but we didn't really become close friends. It was like more like name acquaintances.
Yeah, it was like I knew who you were. I remember one time we like met up. It was when you switched from Vima to Modere.
Modere, yeah.
And it was you and Matt
Bauman.
And, you and Matt Bauman.
Oh yeah. We went to
Chipotle.
Restaurant. Was it Chipotle?
I think we sat like in the back of Chipotle.
Yeah, with Taylor.
Yeah, with Taylor. It was me and Taylor. And we were in the back of Chipotle. And that was like the first time I think I had like a proper sit down. Because I think you actually invited Taylor. Like Taylor was the main point of contact. Yeah. So pretty funny. But that was like the first time we like sat down. And then we ended up working at Lifetime Fitness together. Mm-hmm. Great times. Great gym.
And you were always like, Andrew was always like, at the time at least, he was always like the guy that knew life would be okay. And he's like, I'm just going to live it now. You know what I mean? Did you work another job too or no?
When I was working at Lifetime, there was a transition where I did work 2 jobs. I was working at the escape game place.
Okay, but both like low skill level jobs, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure. Because
desk, escape
yeah,
game.
so I'll kind of give like a quick little rundown just so like everyone's caught up to that point. So basically, grew up in Georgia. My parents, like if you're interested in learning like way more about me, you can go listen to my podcast. Back in the day, I had my own podcast. Quick little plug, Andrew Deitsch podcast. But I'll give kind of the cliff notes of getting up to.
He's stealing our traffic day one. Like,
I'm
what is this about?
funneling the traffic back to the
gonna take
podcast. It's all an
royalties.
elaborate ruse. But anyways, grew up in Georgia. Awesome parents. I was homeschooled for a little bit. Then I ended up going to private school for like middle school. And then I went to public high school, Norcross High School. Shout out Blue Devils.
Which private school did you go to?
Perimeter Christian School.
Okay,
Very small school.
I actually ran track meets there and stuff.
Yep. They had a pretty good track actually.
I had the biggest asthma attack of my life there. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do track, but I did cross country there. So pretty crazy. Shout out PCS Eagles. Shouting it out like all these schools I don't give a fuck about.
So private middle school, public high school.
Yep. So that was a big like culture shock for me. I grew up like very religious. My parents were very Christian. I went to
Like Baptist, like white people Baptist.
Presbyterian. So
Even
like
more white.
Yeah, pretty white. Like very like suburban, modern kind of Christian. Like
Yeah.
very like if people are from the area, like kind of similar to like North Point Church kind of thing. Like definitely never like I grew up like I grew up, that was all I knew, you know what I mean? So that definitely shaped me. Like I said, I was homeschooled for the first part and then went to private middle school. So I was at church like every day basically because I was there all throughout the week for school. And then I was there on Sundays. And then also I was in a Boy Scout troop that was out of our church too. So sometimes I was even there on the weekends and Tuesday nights. And so like I lived, breathed, and slept at that church basically. So that was like a huge part of growing up for me. Made a lot of great friends there. I actually like pretty much all of my current roommates that I live with all went to that school too, which is kind of weird. Like AJ went there. It's pretty interesting. But anyways, went to public high school. Then I went to Georgia College for 1 year. And I went there because I didn't get into UGA. I just didn't have the good enough grades or whatever. Very competitive school to get into. And I went to GCSU for 1 year.
By the way, let me plug myself here.
Yeah. And he's like, I
got
did.
an EGA. I got an EGA, but with a fucking sick plot. I've always gamed the fucking system. That's why my confidence is so high because I never believe in the rules. Okay. High school.
I love that quote.
I didn't take any AP classes.
By the way, Monster Energy.
Monster
please.
doesn't actually sponsor us, but I have spent more than I will probably spend on my entire first home to Monster White Energy cans. Moving on. Yeah, they're that good. Moving
This
on.
looks like your bank account after
Monster.
Zero Ultra.
So really, I was in high school. I went to a small private school. Didn't have like a crazy I had a good GPA, not like fucking great. I was like in Georgia, there was something called the Hope Scholarship, and it paid 95% of your tuition. Okay.
And like a certain amount of everything else. I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was so
a certain amount allocated towards books
or something
and
like that.
some
Yeah.
shit.
But anyway, so it was like up till my senior year, it was like a 3.6 gets you Hope Scholarship, paid in full.
And 3.8 or something was like Zell Miller.
No,
where you got like
there was no
100%.
Zell Miller.
Oh, really?
And senior fucking year,
They
these
introduced
rats, they introduced it. And it was too late for me to shift my GPA enough in one last semester
Rats.
versus 8 whole semesters of high school to be able to make an impact enough, that 1.5 points that I needed to actually get to where, like, so I ended up with a 70% scholarship instead of 95.
Rats.
So anyways, here's how I got in. Dude, I got into Georgia Tech. I got into fucking Ivy League schools, and I didn't even get a fucking free scholarship from Georgia that everyone else got. Think about it. And it's because I applied for environmental engineering or environmental architecture or some shit. So, like, I was like, I just went down the list. I'm like, what the fuck is like the thing no one's applying to? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
yes, like architectural not architecture, environmental architecture or some shit. I might have fucking like how plants are supposed to be placed or some shit. I'll take it. Anyways, got in. All my friends declined. Better GPAs, better students, president of this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, their
athletes,
resume was so full.
stacked. AP classes left and right.
Their
like,
parents were like two different races.
Yeah. Everything that went in their direction. You know, parents, alumni, like all this shit. And Eddie Maalouf got in for environmental whatever. First day orientation, I changed my degree.
Wow.
I didn't even make it to a class.
Did they like say anything about that? Like, wow,
Not
first
a
day.
single word, bro.
That's funny. That's actually like a really good hack. Like
Big
like,
life hack.
I really hope that someone listening to this
Someone's gonna do this
uses
and be
that
like, I
information.
got into Harvard with a 3.2.
They're like, I was
And
a
then
man and
became
I
a
applied for
doctor.
women's studies, and they only had one other guy in the major, so I got in.
Like genius. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
sick, dude. Hey, props. That's awesome.
So, I mean, there's a quote I think.
That's awesome. I'm not fucking jealous at all. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's my Georgia story. Keep going.
No, that's sick. I should have done something like that. Honestly, like I think back about this a lot because I think in high school I always kind of like thought I would go to college just because like it was what you did, but I could never really like imagine what I was gonna be doing there and like what I would actually study. And I think it's interesting growing up. I always wanted to be in like some sort of like creative thing, but I didn't know exactly what. And I was always in like art classes and stuff, but I was like, I'm not even in the top like 10 people in this art class. How could I ever be like a top artist of the world? You know what I mean? Like I'm not even
set realistic expectations.
I'm not even
for
like
yourself.
top 10 in this class of 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
30 schmucks, like
30
not artists.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like,
Yikes.
so I thought about that a lot. And interestingly, I took my first proper Photoshop class in high school. It was one semester only. I learned a lot of stuff that I still use today, like in that class. But before that, I'd always dicked around on like Microsoft Paint, and I've got a cracked version of Photoshop on my parents' family computer at some point. And learned that. But I always was also interested in my family. My mom growing up was, and she still is, like just super frugal. She always wants to save money and figure out ways to make a buck, and you know, like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we would sign up as a family to do these like surveys where they like basically kind of take you in, and it might be a taste test where you have to answer a bunch of questions after eating like 4 bites of a new Arby's sandwich that hasn't come out yet.
Is
or
this
some
to make
random
money or?
Yeah, you make like $100 for like an hour, you know?
Yeah, it's
and
actually
like
sick.
and honestly, when you're a kid, they'll do ones for like toys. Like they'll set out like a table of toys, and they give you like $100 fake dollars, and you can go and spend money. And they like do market research on like, if kids had $100, what would they actually buy and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. And at the end, they would give you a free toy, and the parents would get like $50 or whatever.
That's sick.
So we would do a bunch of those. And I always remember like growing up that I, for whatever reason, thought that I would like do something in that world, which I guess would be kind of in the marketing sort of space, like figuring out, you know, customer behaviors and stuff like that. But I always, for whatever reason, in the back of my head, thought I would do something like that, which is kind of interesting. But I never like knew what degree that would be, or like what job I would need to get, or who I would work for. I always just kind of like imagine myself like in that world, like maybe making commercials or something. Funny enough. And so I went to GCSU, and my major was mass communications, which was like the closest thing that I could like think
Journalism.
of. Yeah, like it included journalism, radio, broadcast, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember my second
Laughed upon degree for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, but if you want to be like an announcer or like a news guy or something, you know what I mean? Like that was what you could do. That was what you would do. And I didn't really like understand. I didn't understand like the difference of like marketing and advertising and all this stuff. Like I was just kind of like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I was like, yeah, that'll be my major. And it was funny because I wasn't supposed to really get into any of those types of classes until like my second year, because you kind of like your freshman year, you just take all the like generic classes.
Yeah.
But something happened in my second semester where I got messed up in the scheduling type system or whatever, and there was some kind of weird fluke where I wasn't allowed to. Oh, I remember what it was. It was like my high school credits from science didn't transfer over, but it was because for some reason my high school was able to count my 8th grade science as a class. So literally, I'm not even joking. On this day, when like everyone was signing up for classes, I get locked out, and I'm like, what the fuck? I already met with my counselor. Like there should be no problems.
Yeah.
And I literally had to call my private middle school, and they'd never heard of this ever. Like they were like, what? I had to call them and ask them to send proof that I took this 8th grade science class to my college.
While you were there.
To my college while I was already enrolled second semester.
Yikes.
It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. Like, it was so funny. I called the receptionist. I knew who it was. Like, I was like, hey, Mrs. Sells, got a weird one. like, literally, I was like, I don't know what to say at this point.
This is worse
It's
than
like 8 a.m. and this is your first phone call of the day, and I need you to find proof that I was enrolled in this 8th grade science class and send it to my college. That was hilarious. So anyways.
How long did that take? Did they get it quick?
Yeah, they were able to do it but by that time, all the classes that I like tentatively like signed up for, you kind of like rush and try to get in the class. I'd already missed all of them. Mm-hmm. So my counselor's like, don't worry, we'll get you signed up for all your classes actually towards like towards the end of the semester. Oh, wow. Because a lot of people will drop and then there'll be openings and the people that already have their schedule are just going to keep it. So actually I got into one of the intro to mass comm classes, even though I wasn't really supposed to be into it until the next year because then normally it was just sophomores. So anyways, I was in that class with a bunch of sophomores and I remember being in that class.
I just want to point out how stupid college is.
It's so dumb.
They made you go to 8th grade to get a science record because maybe you shouldn't have been in the classes you're about to apply to.
That was what I didn't understand.
But then 180 degrees jump you to classes you're actually not supposed to be into. You know what I mean? Like they tried to stop you from taking the easier classes and they got it and they're like, we'll just let them take the harder ones and skip these easy ones that we were so anal about.
Right? So dumb.
Makes no sense.
Also, like the funniest thing too is like I was taking Spanish in college and I'd already taken Spanish 1 through 4 in high school, but I didn't learn like enough to like pass Spanish 2 in college. So I had to go back to Spanish 1.
You're wild.
Anyways.
I took Arabic in college because it was a cheat code and I pretended I didn't know shit.
You actually pretended?
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to get a 4.0. It's 16 credit hours, 4 years, 4 hours a semester. 4.0. I'm like, fuck.
Did they know you were Lebanese?
Here's the story. No one knew. I sat in the back. I was on my phone. I was like the guy that didn't pay attention in class and didn't know anything. And like, I always kind of played the card, but like always ace things, but miss things on purpose kind of thing. Yeah. It's actually a really funny story. It was by 8 a.m. So it's like my first ever college class. And I show up and I'm like, okay, I'm fluent. I can read, write. I'm like 4th year material here. You know what I mean? And I fake it through the second exam all the way, and it's like the week of the second exam, so like 2 months into school, and she says something. She says "hoch." It's a word, so it's 3 letters. She writes, and I was like, she's like peach, and she like writes it on the board. I'm like, motherfucker, that's a plum. I was like, that ain't no goddamn fucking peach. This girl's like, she's like Middle Eastern. Like she's like wearing a hijab. Like she's all out. Like she's grew up.
She was faking it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, she was like just came to America, barely spoke.
She was fresh off the boat.
Yeah. Like how could you not know that? And so she said it, and I was like, no way. And like I remember I had a Google phone. I don't know if you remember the Google phones. They would like slide out. It was
the G1.
Yes.
That was the sickest phone.
It was to this day my favorite phone I've
And it had the little ball.
Yes.
And it like the little chin kind of like folded towards you like slightly.
Exactly.
I know exactly what phone.
Yes, and the ball ended up turning into a sensor.
There you go. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like no idea. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
No, but
that was the first Android phone, I think.
Yeah, and it was sick.
Yeah,
I remember having it. It's 2011, and I searched up plum in Arabic. And it wrote exactly the word that was on the board. And I'm like, don't say anything. Don't blow your cover. Like, here's how egotistical I am. You know what I mean? This is back then. Like, now I've calmed down a lot. But back then, I was like, no, she has to know she's wrong. And I was like, don't do it, Eddie. Don't do it. And then she like said it again. I was like, that's wrong. I haven't said a word for 2 months. Where I'm in the back of the class. I look like a douchebag. I'm like doing other things the whole time. Yeah. And I'm telling her she's wrong. And she looks and sees who it is. And out of all people in the class, she's like, this guy. She's like, oh, we have an Arabic master in the class. I'm like, boom. I just turned my phone and I was like, look, it says plum on Google, and I played it on speaker and it goes hoch. And the whole class was like, plum. Did she just get screwed by this kid? Like, no way. So class ends, right? I'm like, fuck, I blew my cover. I walk out in the hallway. There's a line of 20 people and they're like, can you please tutor me? Please, I just want to get tutored.
No.
Everyone in the class discovered, and all I said was plum. I didn't like go ham, but I feel like they felt the energy that came from it. And they're like, can I study with you for the test? Can I do this? And I was like, no, not really. Like, I don't really know much. I don't know anything. And I was like, and then I went home and I was like, at this point, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I've blown my cover. They gave us the next test. I finished it in 2 minutes. It was a 90-minute exam. 90 fucking minutes, guys. 2 minutes. I finished it. People were on question 3 out of 50. And I was done. Like, that's the level. That's the gap. And I handed it to her, and she's like, what is this? I'm like, I finished it. Like, I'm good. It's 100. And then she like walked out of the class. After that, bro, every time, hey, please, can we study? Can we read your notes? I'm like, I don't fucking take notes. Get out of here. So I actually did the opposite that you did.
That's hilarious.
And I fucking coasted that 4.0. Next semester, the teacher knew.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard about you. And
Oh,
he,
shit.
Moves on. So I had to struggle.
Yeah.
My first few months, like intentionally, like
in the third year,
in the second year,
in the second year,
to make it feel like I belong there still. Like he knew who I was, and he kind of like mentioned like if this is too easy, you're moving on. So like,
would he ever say some shit in Arabic to you to try to like see if you knew what he was saying?
Yeah, no, I mean there's Arabic
like he
people
said
in the
some
class.
like very advanced stuff. That's just like
it's not that. A lot of people in the class spoke because they were actually Arabic. They just didn't read and write.
Oh, okay.
And I did, and that's like the gap. That's the hardest part of Arabic is reading and writing.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah. So my parents actually went out of their way to teach me that every summer, bro, for like 7 years as a kid living in a water park in Lebanon, which I'll get into later. But I learned Arabic. It was torture.
Yeah.
But
honestly, like sometimes I think about that. I'm like, damn, I wish like I was kind of like forced to learn a language growing up, just because it gets way harder when you're older.
Way hard. Like, you just don't care enough.
I also, exactly. I don't care enough. Like if I lived in a foreign country, I would definitely put in a lot more effort. But it's like,
for sure,
there's no immersion.
If we lived in Spain for a year, we'd be fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, this is kind of what this podcast is. We'll probably go back and forth a lot. So anyways, so I took that Spanish class, which is funny because I remember being in high school Spanish, thinking about how dumb it was that I was like learning Spanish. Cause I was like, I'm never going to like, maybe I'll go to Mexico, but I'm never going to like go to Spain. And then I ended up going to Spain. So anyways, it's funny because I had those thoughts. Like I was like, I'm never like, because my teacher would talk about Spain. She went and like studied there for like a year. Because like some Spanish teachers speak like Mexican Spanish, some are Spanish, whatever. So anyways, it was just funny that I had that thought. So my freshman year though, that was when I also learned about VEMA. That was a big part of our story. So kind of to go back to that.
Where'd you go to college again?
Georgia College, GCSU in Milledgeville. So small college, liberal arts college actually, which is kind of funny. One of my electives, my second semester was theater. Or like something like that, where like we had to do a play. It was funny. Like our final project was like to act out a play with our partners. Like think about how juvenile that is, and that was in college.
Think about the fact that probably cost you $1,500.
Oh, 100%,
at least.
So, anyways, it was still fun though. But college, so in my freshman year, I got introduced to VEMA, which was a network marketing company. People can look it up if they're curious, but it was like it was a high energy. But basically, if people are trying to understand it, it's like it's like a Mary Kay or an Herbalife or an Amway, and MLM kind of. A lot of people call them pyramid schemes, but anyways, basically this particular one was sweeping the nation across college campuses with promises of free Beamers and lots of women and money and energy drinks. BMWs, indeed. So anyways, got introduced to VEMA. That was the first time it was funny growing up. My mom was actually in an MLM company. She was in a skincare company called Arbonne, which is still around. And I remember growing up, she was really into it. She would host home events. She would, she did pretty decently. Like she got to the level like right before the car. And I saw her struggle. I saw her really stick at it for multiple years. I saw like all the ups and downs of that whole business. Yeah. It was cool because I remember thinking at the time, this is really cool. Like if this wasn't like skincare or something, I'd want to do it. So then when the concept of VEMA was presented to me, I already was very familiar with the business model just because of, overhearing my mom talk about points and, like all this kind of stuff. And like, I remember at first dismissing it, but then I was like, you know what? Like this could be something cool for me. And I bet my mom would probably be kind of supportive because it's like similar. And yeah, I decided to do it. And basically it was definitely like a roller coaster of self-development. That was the first time I ever like really started reading like business type books and listening to TED Talks and podcasts and listening to like business type books and things like that. Think and Grow Rich was like a huge thing for me. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a big thing for me. And I just remember basically, to make a long story short, I was like pledging a fraternity at GCSU for a semester. It was in the second semester because they wouldn't let you pledge fraternities the first semester because they knew it would just get like so rowdy and you would just like not focus on your school. Yeah. So they were like, girls could rush the sororities first semester, but guys could not. So rush for freshmen did not start until this second semester. And I was always kind of torn of like whether I was going to be that guy that was like a frat bro. Like I was like kind of always teetering the line. And I've always kind of done that, like where I felt like I never completely fit in with like any specific like, oh, these are the band kids or these are the emo kids or these are the, jocks or whatever. Like I was always kind of like teetering that line. Like I was always kind of friends with a lot of different people, but never like in one group. So anyways, when I was rushing the fraternity, that was when I was also doing VEMA. I had started kind of like beginning of my first semester. So by the time second semester started, I was like super in it. And so a lot of my pledge brothers, kind of took that as like me not wanting to hang out with them because I was always doing VEMA stuff. Like I was doing home events and So anyways, I ended up getting dropped from.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, I ended up getting dropped from pledgeship because of that. And
they dropped you from pledgeship for it.
So there was this. To make a long story short, there was this one night where they kind of interviewed everybody, and the last question in the interview was like, "Do you feel like any of your pledge brothers are like not pulling their weight?" And I'm pretty sure that a couple of people said that I was not.
Yeah.
Or like that they weren't like fitting in or something along those lines. Not necessarily pulling your weight because I did all the like required stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was like the best thing that could have happened.
More time than you were required to part.
Yeah. And it was like, all the guys would go off and play like FIFA and I was like going and trying to build a business and like they took that as like me not wanting to hang out with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, it was the best thing that could have happened to me because then I doubled down on my business. I was like, you know what? This is a good sign. Like
I've not realized how similar our stories actually are.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's wild.
No, like on a very deep level. I
love it.
I joined a fraternity, finished pledgeship, and as soon as it finished, I wasn't a fraternity anymore. I was not. Yeah. Well, I know I didn't drop.
It wasn't a wait.
No, it was a fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
Joined, went through pledgeship, went through all the bullshit.
Yeah. At UGA.
Yeah.
So there's probably a lot of bullshit.
Something I always understood was leverage, though, in life.
Mm-hmm.
And in my class, it was a spring class. There was only like 5 guys who applied for that spring class because it was way smaller.
So you were like, if there's ever a time, I should do it now?
No, not even that. I just like knew who my classmates were. And because I knew who I was and who they were, I was like more rule breaking than them to the fraternity. Like they would call me and be like, Pledge, go get me McDonald's. I'm like, fuck yourself, Chris. And hang up.
Yeah, and they were kind of like, oh.
I come back and they'd fucking haze the shit out of me, but they were always like, why is this guy not phased? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, anyways, but all that said, they let me throw the party that year. We threw too big of a party. Fraternity ended the next week. So
they kicked the fraternity off campus kind of thing?
Our chapter got dismantled and they just restarted with a new group of people fully.
Wow.
Like 80 people gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, same story. Like dipped your toes into the fraternity.
And then immediately got dipped out.
I never actually was in a fraternity.
Yeah.
Like
same.
I was for a week. Which technically...
It's funny because I know all of the secrets. Like, there's supposed to be like secrets and stuff.
Bro, I became a brother. And then I got...
yeah. And the funniest part is like we had like a handbook. And for some reason I ended up with 2. And like the night that they like had to like revoke my pledgeship, they're like, we need your pin and your pledge book or whatever. And I like gave them the stuff. And then I was like, I have another one. Like I literally could just publish this shit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not... Obviously, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because they're like the secrets of the brotherhood, and it's like I just have.
Have you benefited from it ever?
I think in like ways that I couldn't like calculate, and just like knowing that it was like something that I did, and it wasn't necessarily for me. It taught me like, just about just that experience. Like, it was just a unique experience. I'm glad I did it, but I'm also glad that I didn't go through with it, because I think it would have like just kind of, number one, it was the decision of, was I ever going to like transfer to UGA? Because that's what a lot of people would do, is they would go there for like 1 year and then transfer to UGA.
Yeah.
So like by joining that fraternity, I was kind of like solidifying that I wasn't going to do that as much, because it was like I could transfer to the same fraternity there, but like that's just weird.
Not the same, yeah.
It's not the same. And so, excuse me. Basically, yeah, like I was glad that I was kind of like freed from that, because then what happened was, I was just really delving into like self-development and all this stuff. And the more I kind of learned about entrepreneurship and business and stuff, I just like realized that I didn't even feel like I wanted to be in school. And that was also at the time, like I said, I was taking this intro to mass comm class, and they were teaching, like, I understand like the value. I understand the value in learning about like the history of journalism and things like that. But in this class, it was like very much talking about stuff that was relevant like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, we were talking about like ad placements, but they were talking about like literally like banner ads and like placements in newspaper and like full page spreads. And I'm like, you do realize that like Instagram is a thing, right? Like, we're not going to learn about that at all, or like Facebook ads. And at the time that was like Facebook dark posts and stuff, So it was like, and this was like 2012, 2013.
That's when I started doing ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that was the wild west of ads.
Online at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking wild. And it was a weird time just in general. I think that time period is going to be looked back as like a very interesting time, because I think the people that are older than us, like even 5-10 years older than us, like experienced life a very different way, and the kids 5-10 years younger than us also experienced life a different way, because we were like kind of on the cusp of the internet and stuff. Like, we had, like you said, you had the first Android phone, you know what I mean? But that was like in your first year of college. So you went like most of high school without really like having like a crazy ass smartphone. Like, in the beginning we had like regular phones. Smartphones came out while we were in high school. Now kids in middle school have like the fullest level iPhone 10. Think about like the difference there. It's wild. So anyways,
you just inspired me to go like teach a class in a college. Like teaching an e-commerce class, like how much value would you be providing? Like a 400 person class on e-commerce, like from logistics to marketing to fulfillment to back
so
end.
much.
You get what I'm saying? Like, those people learning would be like, holy fuck, this guy changed my life.
Yeah.
This made college worth it.
100%.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
You'd be teaching them something that their teachers are not teaching them.
No one's
teaching it.
Real life. Yeah.
No, and that's why like I would hear this all the time in Vima, but they were like, you're like, your professors aren't going to teach you how to make $1 million, bro. Your parents aren't going to teach you how to make $1 million, dude. Like, you got to listen to people that are making $1 million, like shit like
give
that.
A voice to it too.
But it was that kind of like bro type of guy that was like giving that type
Eddie
of
Maalouf
advice.
will.
Yeah, exactly. but that was like the attitude. I was like, you know what? Shit, you're right. Like, my parents have done well for themselves. I never felt like our family was like super poor or anything. Like, they, my dad's an entrepreneur, so like I never felt like they didn't necessarily, they didn't teach me like bad habits or anything when it came to business. But at the same time, like, my dad was really encouraging me to go to college, but like didn't ever, he's not using his degree currently. My mom's not using her degree currently. So it was always kind of like this thing of, did I really need this degree? That was like in my head. I'm like, do I really need this college degree? And it was like, for all these things that I wanted to pursue, I was like, I don't need this piece of paper necessarily. I'll figure it out. And so anyways, I remember sitting one night, and I was behind on a lot of like classes and stuff, and I needed to study for my finals, and I needed to finish these projects. And I remember one of my roommates, he was addicted to video games, and he was failing all of his classes, and we were all kind of like, so coming back next semester? And he was like, no, I failed out of everything.
Know if we have a roommate.
Yeah. So he was failing out, and I remember feeling super jealous.
What did he play?
League of Legends.
Look, babe, you hear that shit?
He would play it all night.
That's how strong that game is. Look at my discipline.
He would play it all night. I remember, like, at the time, I knew all of the mains. I knew all the characters. I knew all the lingo because I would just hear him all the time yelling. Respect. You just yelling, yeah. And he would play it all night. So anyways, shout out Corey if you're listening to this. I love you, bro.
Sounds like he's a good guy.
He's a great guy. I love him. But anyways, so Corey was not coming back, and I remember feeling jealous. I'm like, damn, I wish I could not come back. And then I was like, I could, like, I could just drop out. Like,
that's why you know what I mean? Out.
No, I didn't drop out because of that. But I remember that was when the thought crossed my brain. I'm like, what if I didn't go back?
Yeah.
You know, I need to present my parents with like some sort of like goal or like,
why?
You know, yeah, why? Yeah. Besides just like Vima, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways,
is that why?
It was like part of it, but it was like, it was the catalyst for that why. I didn't know if it was necessarily like the end goal, but ultimately I was like, I've already learned so much about like what I didn't want that I was like, I think this is going to lead me down the path of something that I don't really want. And so I likened it to like, if someone gave you like a really good coupon, like a 90% off coupon, like the Hope Scholarship, a 90% off coupon to something that you ultimately don't even want or need, are you still going to cash in that coupon if you still have to pay that 10%?
No.
If it was like something like, you know, like a car that you didn't want. It's like,
but
there's like maybe
there's still value to it at the time.
No, 100%. Like I'm not even going to be here shitting on college by any means. I'm just saying for me, that was like where I was kind of at.
Yeah.
And so
would you agree that like 4 years in the world that we live in, only 4 years after the year we graduated, like at that point in history, it was like official college was not valuable.
It was probably about 4 years.
You know what I mean?
And those years that I didn't go, because ultimately I'll get to the point of the story where I dropped out. It was a weird time because I was like, it was a toss up when I told people whether they were gonna feel one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I think now, people are like, oh, nice, great, yeah, you can make money all kinds of ways. You know, you don't need it. But like back then, it was still feeling like everyone needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know what the internet really did was it made a fair marketplace.
Yes. And it gave a lot of opportunities to people who didn't have them before.
Exactly. It was an open market, meaning you can get paid based on value, not based on title. And that changed the world forever. At a core level. That's really what really happened.
And the other thing is like it removed a lot of the gatekeepers that previously kept like the rich and the poor type stuff. It's like
a closed market.
Exactly. And we've talked about that before. Like how as a 16-year-old were you going to go actually invest in the stock market in 1985?
No chance.
You'd have to find a stockbroker.
Not even that. Let's say that was doable. How the fuck are you going to have money as a 16-year-old to invest? And
any kind of money that would be like life changing. Like, you know, every 16-year-old is like $20.
But yeah, what are you going to invest? $400? Whoa, rich 16-year-old in the class here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like Gary Vee's like, if you've got $3,200 under your bed and you're 12 years old and you're not selling weed, you're doing amazing. I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he always tells that story.
It's true though.
Yeah, it is true. Like if you're making money as a kid, like you've like cracked some little code, like you figured it out,
and
you know,
figured out how to save a bit of it too,
exactly.
You know?
My brother, oh my gosh, was always like that.
Really?
Yeah, he like bought a laptop in like 8th grade. He bought like a MacBook in like 8th grade.
By himself.
Yep, by himself.
Sick.
My parents wouldn't buy him shit. He was like, they were like, no, you gotta, if you want a laptop, like, why do you need a laptop? You can buy it. Like, you can mow some lawns. But yeah, we were always like that.
It's crazy, mow some lawns. Now to make some money, all you gotta do is learn to dance on TikTok.
Yeah.
Easier times.
Yeah. You gotta have pretty privilege though. That's a thing apparently now. People are calling it pretty privilege.
I don't know.
If you're attractive by birth. Like people with pretty privilege, blah 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 blah. It's like, can we not have fucking anything anymore? Jesus Christ. Anyways, so that night I was thinking about dropping out. There's a bunch of different things, but it was right when I finished Rich Dad Poor Dad. That book like actually did change my life, because I was like, holy shit, I've been listening to my parents, but ultimately my parents are not like millionaires. Like, so
Tell us about that.
no.
Hey, Andrew, tell us about your parents.
Tell us about your parents not being millionaires. I can't imagine what that's like. Couldn't fathom it.
Yes.
But anyways, so I was sitting there.
No, like financially, where was your dad? Like,
So growing up, like, before sixth grade, my dad was like an accountant. My mom was homeschooling us basically. Previously she'd owned a boutique with her friend. So she was like a business owner. She owned like a little small clothing shop.
Yeah.
And she ultimately sold her half of the business to her business partner when she had me, which is crazy. So she sold her business to be a mom, and that was cool. That was awesome. Like I was able to spend like so much time with my mom growing up. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She's my biggest fan. Like, everything I wanted to do, she was super supportive always.
I bet.
She thought the world of me. Moms are the best. And she homeschooled us too until I was in fourth grade. That was when I went to that private school. And basically up until then, my dad was the primary breadwinner, and there was like periods of time where like he would get laid off, and like, people would bring like food over to our house, and I would be like, are we poor? Like, why are people bringing food to us? And you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we were never like we lived in the same house all growing up, always drove like, used cars. Like there was nothing about our lifestyle where you'd be like, damn, they're rich. Like we were always very just like consistent. And my dad, when I was in like sixth grade, decided to open up a Dippin' Dots franchise. And he was like, he wanted to own some sort of franchise, like some sort of business, but he didn't want to like start something. So he's like, franchise seemed like the right way. And looking into franchises, he was like, what do I have to do like the least amount of like cleaning and dishes?
That's too funny.
And he was like, Dippin' Dots. It's super clean. You just scoop the dots. You don't have to do much cleaning
That's
or
it,
dishes or you don't have to make the ice cream. Like,
nothing.
yeah, he's just like, this seems like an easy business. Kind of like,
You want to go to Andy's after this?
Yeah.
Count me in.
Yeah, let's go. But yeah, so he opened up that, and that was when I like realized like, oh, that's cool. My dad owns a business. I remember seeing on our answering machine at home, it said Dippin' Dots, and I was like, why is Dippin' Dots calling us? And then like a week later, my dad was like, kids, I have something to tell you. And I was like, that's why Dippin' Dots is on the thing. But anyways, pretty funny.
That's so funny.
But yeah, like basically then my dad owned his business, and then my mom was always working like random little weird jobs after my brother went to school, because then she, no reason to be like a stay-at-home mom if there's no one at home. There's no one to mom. So basically she was always working like all these random jobs, and then in past years she got a job at this pool renovation company, and she's worked her way up to being like a badass
Why did she never
salesperson.
work with your dad? Do you know?
In Dippin' Dots? Mm-hmm. She would help him and stuff, but it was just like not one of those. It didn't really like need like a second like major leader unless he was gonna like open up like a fucking Dippin' Dots empire, and he was just never really interested in that.
Okay, that's my real question.
So he's kind of like more like the general.
Dots, I'd be like, I want 50 of these.
Right,
fuckers. Like,
right. He was not interested in that. He was interested in like making enough to support the family and not much more, Yeah. And no disrespect to that, like that was just that's how he viewed the business from the beginning, and that's how he's still running it today.
That's the strategy.
Yeah. And
stick to it.
But anyways, my mom eventually started working for this pool renovation company, and now my mom makes more money than my dad. So that's cool, because now they're also don't have kids. So like it's cool to see them be able to like go on awesome vacations, and like we can go out as a family to like really nice places and like not feel guilty about it, and shit like that. Like it's cool. It's cool that we grew up not like that, and now I'm able to do that, and it's like it's made a cool relationship with my parents.
Yeah, they make more money together, and then you guys make more money as well as kids.
Exactly. And that's really fun. But But anyways, to finally go back to the night that I dropped out, there was this it was at night. There's this little train station depot that was like, it used to be an actual train station, but now it was like the school gym, like the old school gym, and no one really used it. And it was right across from my dorm, and I walked over there, and I remember like thinking, and at the time, like I said, I was really religious, so I was like praying and stuff, and I was like, God, what should I do? Like, I want to drop out, but I know it'll like really disappoint my parents and like my friends, and like it'll put like such uncertainty in my life, and I could just like do this for the next 4 years and like kind of have at least like a roadmap for the next 4 years at least, and then figure out what I want to do. But I remember it started like pouring rain, so I ducked inside that little depot, and I like sat there as it was like thundering and lightning, and like it was very dramatic. Felt like it was in a movie even at the time. Like I was like, whoa, is this a sign? But I'm like, what sign is it? The sign to do it or the sign to stay?
Yeah,
like,
right. That's the worst part about signs. It's like, which way does the sign actually mean?
Right? So I was like, does the lightning and thunder mean like, if you do this, your life's going to be tumultuous and crazy? Or does it mean like, this place is hell, leave? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. But I remember I had this like little notebook, and I just started writing a letter. First I wrote a letter to God. Basically, I was like praying like in like a letter, and I was like, show me the right path or something. And then I wrote a letter to my parents, basically kind of like just trying to like word vomit and try to like concisely say like what I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And I remember like, I'm going to read this to my parents and drop out. So that was the night that I decided to drop out. I went home, and I didn't study for my finals, and I didn't finish those projects, and I just went to sleep, knowing that I was like, I'm going to lose the Hope Scholarship and I'm dropping out. And I was like, there's no really turning back. And it was weird, like waking up the next morning. I went to my finals and like did so bad. I knew I did bad. And like, it was really awkward because I had this one class that I had to like check out a piece of equipment to like do the final project. And like, I didn't do the final project, but I also still had to return the thing. And I was so embarrassed that I literally like the professor was in his office. I was like, I'm just gonna go return the thing, put it inside of his office and leave. But I get there and he's in there and he's talking to someone. And I don't even think I've ever shared this on a podcast before. Or just in general. I like snuck up to the door, put the thing like inside of his door.
Stop.
And like walked away really fast. And I heard someone go, hello, or something like that, and I just kept walking. And I emailed him. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I didn't do the project, but I returned the thing. And he was like, okay. It's like this old guy. It was like a programming class. I don't even know why I took it. It was like an Android app programming class.
That's pretty sick, though.
It was kind of cool, but like it was way cooler in theory. And then when I actually got to it, it was very not cool.
I feel you. I had a class like that.
It was very lame. Like the apps we were trying to build were like, why would anyone ever want to build this? Like, I want to build the next Facebook. And then it's like, I'm like, oh, I got to be a fucking nerd and like know how to code and shit.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Like,
I can't just like click and drag. Like, I can't just like design it in Photoshop and it just works, Like, that was the side that I wanted to do. Like, I'm like, click this button and this will happen. And it's like, well, you got to code that part.
Yeah, people don't know
but the button looks cool.
Time that actually takes.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Like, because you have to redesign everything you code.
Mm-hmm.
Because it all has to look good. It's not like you can just redesign the code. Sometimes you have to redesign the code and then the design again to be optimal based on that.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was when I dropped out. I moved in and did like Vima for a while.
How much
did it
did
for
you
like
make?
a year. I don't even know.
Hundreds
Definitely,
a month.
Yeah, hundreds a month, if that. Enough to like pay for my Vima, maybe.
That's
some months.
Yeah.
And so I was working at Dunkin' Donuts at the time because I needed like a job to like actually pay the bills, and then Vima was like the side hustle that hopefully would someday pay off. And that year was weird. That was like kind of the trenches, and I knew I was in the trenches. Like I remember one day it was raining, and I needed to get to work, and I also didn't have a car. Me and my roommate had a car, but we weren't necessarily sharing it. It was his car, but he would let me use it sometimes, or he would drive me to work. But in this instance, he was out of town, and I needed to get to work, and I was opening up the store. So it was like 5:30 a.m., and I needed to get to work, and it was pouring rain. And I remember thinking, And I could walk to work easily. I would walk there sometimes, but it was pouring. So I obviously didn't want to walk. And I was like, I could call an Uber or something, or I could call someone else. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to just fucking put on my rain jacket and put on an umbrella and pack another pair of clothes in my backpack and walk. Because I was just like, fuck it. I'm like, I need to remember how shitty this is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't ever want to go back there. And I remember walking in the rain. Everything was soaked. My jeans were soaked. My shoes were soaked. My socks were soaked. Everything. Even though I brought an extra pair of socks in my backpack that stayed pretty dry because of my umbrella and I put my jacket around my backpack. But yeah, everything was soaked. And I just remember thinking that whole day, I'm like, I'm never gonna let this happen again. You know, like I can't.
Yeah.
And
this is a low.
This was a low. Yeah. I was still like having a fun life. Like my life was still good, but it was like, this is shitty as fuck.
Very complacent.
You know, no car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that just sucks.
Like almost like no water.
Yeah.
In
like
today's world.
Today's world, at least in America, you know, unless you're in like a big city, like no car is a.
There's no Uber back then either.
Yeah, and I think I remember there was, but it like didn't even actually cross my mind in that morning. Because also I was like, what am I gonna do? Get a $20 Uber
to work
to make $40? You know what I mean? Like it would make my work day not worth it.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So that I did that for like a while, and then I remember my friend texting me about this thing called being an au pair. I'd never heard of it, but basically you're like a nanny overseas. And you would like live with the family, and you would, you know, teach the kids English by just like hanging out with them.
This is when you were traveling to Europe.
Yes. Okay. So my friend taught me about that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Too bad I'm like a dude and I can't do that because that's like a girl job. And my friend was like, no, there's actually like guy au pairs out there. Like I've met some here. She was in Milan, and I was like, damn, that's cool. And I remember my lease was about to end. And my other roommate that I'd moved into that place with had already moved out. So, like, I didn't really feel any obligation to these new guys as much. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to move back home for, like a couple of months and try to do this au pair thing. So I applied. And basically, you kind of, like, make it's almost like a dating profile. You kind of like, you know, put a profile picture and what you do and who you are and all that stuff, and it matches you with potential families. And I got matched with this family that had two boys in Milan, because I was like, Italy, like I think I chose like 3 countries. Italy sounded really cool. It's pretty like touristy too, so I'm like, Italy will be cool. So I ended up living with this family for like 3 months in Italy. And that was really cool. I gained a lot of it, just like life experience there. You know, it was first time traveling by myself like that. First time I had to get a passport. The only time I'd ever left the country was like on a cruise with my family. So like I never traveled outside of America really. So that was a really like just like eye-opening, life-changing type of experience. And then I ended up coming back and working at Lifetime. That was like right when I came back. I was still living at my parents' house, and I remember my dad like overheard someone. My dad's like loves the gym. He's always at the gym and stuff. Knows all the people that work there, and he'd heard that they were like hiring for the front desk staff, and he was like, "Hey, would you want to work at Lifetime?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, like that seems like a pretty good place to work." So I started at Lifetime, and then that was I can't remember if it was during this summer that you were working there, or because I worked there for like 2 years. But basically the next summer I also did the au pair thing with a different family. I lived in Spain, and we lived in Madrid. Basically,
we
in the
met
suburbs.
each other before you worked at Lifetime. You
yeah.
went to Lifetime.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You're totally right.
For like forever, bro.
You're totally right.
Like
Why did I think that we only knew each other at Lifetime because we worked there together?
Because
we worked out there together.
Exactly.
And that was when I met your brother and stuff. Yeah.
Because I worked in Alpharetta in sales, and you were in Johns Creek.
Yeah.
And
so we weren't even at this. Did you? You came to Johns Creek at one point?
6 story. Back to leverage. Important. I feel like this is like my lesson of this podcast is leverage and how important it is in life.
Indeed.
I recognize my leverage. What was the first leverage story I told earlier?
About how you got into UGA.
UGA, right? No, pledgeship. It was about
the pledgeship.
It's like leverage. Like I knew I was the best guy in this group, so I could like pull their leg and like push back a little more, right?
Yes.
What were we just talking about right now, though?
You're talking about Alpharetta Lifetime versus Johns Creek Lifetime.
Leverage.
Yeah.
I left. I was the number one sales guy. I left in August. I worked with my father. And then in December, Lifetime called and Johns Creek. We fired a guy and 2 guys quit. So we're down 3 men. We're going into January, our biggest season of sales. Like our most important month. And we need you to come back for a month and help. And I was like, guys, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be like, yeah. I'm going to be like, this is really difficult, which it was, but I knew how good I was.
It seems like I'm the only guy available.
I'm like, you need someone without training.
Who's good.
Who's great. Like, you need 3 people worth of sales to be made up.
By one guy.
By one guy, because you can't actually... Because in Lifetime, you have to send someone to Minnesota. They have to train for a week.
You can't have someone in
3 weeks before that.
The only hope they had was transferring someone to that location.
Exactly.
That was the only hope.
But then that other location would lose someone in peak season too.
Exactly.
It's like, doesn't work.
They'd have to pay someone a lot to fly or something.
Exactly.
And no location wants to lose someone in January.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like you need everyone. That's the point.
Yep.
Anyways, here's the funny story.
On deck.
I was like, honestly, it's not really worth it. I'm gonna make less money where I'm working. So that was my first point of leverage, right? Even though I'm gonna get paid the same. I was like, I'm gonna make less money where I'm working, and I can't give it all up. I have to still work here a bit, or I'll lose this job fully. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'll do it if I get an extra $2,500 a week. That's a lot of money, bro.
$2,500 a week
extra.
That's $10,000 a month.
Yeah. So
that's sick. So you're basically just for the month of January, I need an extra $10,000
on top of what I'm gonna sell, which is more than everyone else, and you know it. You know what I mean? I'm fucking. I'm like, it's 1 month. Fuck it. Let me just. It's not like I'm losing a job. It's like I'm losing a contract for a month. Let me see how far I could push it.
Yeah.
No, we can't. I'm like, guys, it's not gonna work. I was like, listen, I can do $8,000, but I only have to be in here 2 to 3 days a week max, and that's it. And I was like, and I need to be able to work on other things if I'm here. You guys can't be micromanaging me. I'm here, but I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna be your sales guy. Deal. So I was working on marketing for my dad.
You clipped on that magnetic name tag and suit.
From Lifetime. I worked for my dad's. I did his marketing, right? So I was doing ads and things like that, designs, websites from Lifetime computers. Sorry, from my laptop. So that's how obvious I was. I had a laptop I was working on for my work, and then I had the Lifetime computer.
Yeah.
And I sold more than all of the team combined.
Wow.
Without a single lead. Think about it. They had a book of business.
A book of
They've
leads.
been working it for a year. All
following
the guys up. Yeah. Me, I just
handing out fucking business cards.
That's it. I had no one. Who the fuck is Eddie? You know what I mean? And I sold more than all of them. I actually, no one knows this, but I gave them all memberships under the table, my own memberships, because I knew it didn't help me with my career. And so I gave away 10 memberships worth of commission plus bonuses on top of that because I hit all the bonuses to everyone else on the team because I knew their quota impacted their career and it had no
effect on you.
I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And no one knows that. That was fucking $1,500 of money.
Yeah.
I wasn't fucking balling out. I was just it would be wrong of me to come crush and then leave everyone in ruins for the rest of their career. How can you promote anyone at that club if this random guy just came in, fucking closed more than all of them combined?
Yeah.
How could you have the audacity to ask for a raise? You know what I mean? This dude just came and crushed your whole team by himself, not trying.
Right.
Anyways, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's the point. Leverage has played a big part in my life.
That's awesome.
A little too much in the stock market.
I love it. A little too much in the stock market. Hey, you win some, you lose some.
You lose some big ones.
Sometimes you lose a lot.
Yeah. Gonna be making this one up for a few years.
That's funny. But yeah, so we were working out at Lifetime. I remember because I've been a member. My family for Christmas one year got my dad was like, you know what, we're gonna get memberships to Lifetime for the family. That was like our Christmas present, which was a really cool Christmas present actually.
Yeah,
because it's expensive for the whole year. You know, it wasn't like a month of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was where I first like started to like actually work out and stuff. Like really grateful to my dad for like making that decision. Lifetime, was great. Like I was like did a bunch of like rock climbing there in high school and stuff like that. First time like working out really. But anyways,
didn't Lifetime also like genuinely it set a standard of excellence?
Yeah, definitely did.
And it's kind of like what I started expecting from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like even myself.
Yes.
You know? Like I was like, this is how nice things should be all the time.
Yeah. And like I remember I had a bunch of like like I remember I worked at this one camp, and one of the things they always like preached was like you should leave something nicer than you found it. You should, if there's a piece of trash, don't just leave it for the people whose job it is to pick up trash. Like you fucking pick up the trash. And Lifetime was like the same way. It was like if there's a locker open, don't wait for the ops guys to close the locker. Just fucking close the locker and move on. If there's a towel on the ground, pick it up, put it in the place. Like, you know what I mean? Just everyone does their part because it literally costs you nothing and it takes about 5 seconds of your time.
Yeah.
And then if everyone just does that, it makes the whole place better, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree. Like there's a lot of stuff about Lifetime that like also even at the time when I first started working there, I probably wouldn't have taken the job if this was the case. But at the beginning, I was able to wear like sweatpants and like a shitty like collared shirt. I think it might have even been a t-shirt at the front desk. And then at one point they realized like the sales guys were the only guys that got any respect in the club because they were the guys that had to wear like a suit and tie. And like people always felt like the front desk people were just fucking peasants. And they'd be like, I need to change this about my membership. Call up the man in the suit. And I'm like, I can help you with that. And they're like, you're wearing a t-shirt. You probably don't even wipe your own ass. I need to talk to Eddie. He has a tie on. He must know more than you. So basically at some point they realized like the front desk people weren't getting any respect because they were just like trainers. So they started making everyone like dress up just like the sales guys, and that was like another time in my life where I was like, oh, I'm glad I did that because I like had to wear a tie every day for a while, and I've never had a job where I had to do that really. So like even just that type of stuff is like like the level of excellence, like you said, discipline, showing up, making sure you had a tie to wear that wasn't all fucking crumbled up, and making sure you had nice shoes and bringing your socks. Like I remember because also I would want to work out after I worked there. So like I'd have to do a lot of like planning of outfits. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted to work out before my shift, I had to like plan my workout outfit, but also like make sure I had everything. Cause if I got to work and I was ending my workout and I didn't have all the clothes, like what was I going to do? I was screwed. So like, you know, just that level of just little things. It seems obvious, but like you learn that type of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically worked there for a while, and then one of our family friends had this business of escape games. They ran like a corporate escape game place. Their main clientele was like corporate team building, and I worked there for a couple of years as well. But there was a period of time where I was like overlapping, working at Lifetime in there, and that was the summer that I went to Spain. And so when I came back, I think I quit Lifetime. Because I remember like they had me on pause kind of. And while I was gone, they were like eventually they like switched general managers or something. And someone came in and they were like, who's this Andrew guy that's like still like technically on our payroll but not getting paid? Like get him out of here. So they were kind of like, yeah, when you come back, you're probably going to have to do like training again and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's dumb. I'm just not going to come back.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. Then I started working at the escape game place. And then when I was working at the escape game place, I got really inspired by like Joe Rogan and a bunch of other like podcasters. While I was traveling, I listened to a lot of podcasts too. Like, you know, you're on the train or you're on a plane or whatever. Yeah. And I remember like always wanting to have my own podcast. That was just like a cool thing for me. Like I was just like, that would be so cool. And so I looked into like what I needed. I didn't have a camera. I didn't have anything really. And I just kind of winged it. I looked up what the cheapest possible podcast setup I could get was, which is basically like lavalier clip-on mics and I bought this little recorder, and my stipulations was I wanted to do them all in person because I wanted to have like the face-to-face like connection. I didn't just want it to be like kind of superficial. Like, yeah, I could probably get way cooler guests if I did it on Zoom, but I specifically wanted the in-person feel because I wanted to like actually get to know cool people, you know?
Yeah.
It was more for me than it was the audience, to be honest. And I didn't really fully realize that even in the beginning, to the extent that I eventually realized it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't really necessarily care about video. I was like, I'm going to do audio only, and I don't have a studio. I was living at my parents' house, and I was like, I'm just going to figure out, like, I'll always go to them, basically. That was kind of my workaround for like not having a studio and not having my own place. Like, I was like, I'll go to you. And that made it convenient to get some like kind of bigger people because it was a no-brainer for them. It was kind of like, oh, cool, like maybe I'll get some exposure. I'll have a cool conversation. Maybe I'll have some stuff to post on social media about it. And I don't even have to go anywhere. Like, this guy's going to come to me. Like, it's just super convenient. So I just made it as convenient as possible.
You had a lot of people that I knew, like, on the show.
Yeah, and crazy enough, like, from Vima days, like, a lot of those Vima people ultimately ended up going and doing cool stuff because it was kind of the catalyst that, like, made them realize their true potential.
Yeah.
Which is why I still, to this day, like, love Vima, and I would, you know.
I wouldn't change it.
I wouldn't change it at all. It taught me a lot.
To thinking higher.
Exactly.
And also knowing personal development was a thing.
Yep.
And some of my closest friends, actually most of my closest friends, were all in Vima.
Yeah, same.
Like life friends, not like
exactly
college friends you rarely see. Like
yep.
Life friends.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And so I felt like I knew a decent amount of cool people, and that could start it off. I had like a list of, I remember Gary Vee one time saying, like, if you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start something and you can't write down 50 video ideas, don't fucking even start. Cause like if you can't even think of 50 video ideas, what's going to happen when you get to, you know what I mean? Like, you should have more ideas than you have time to execute. And so I had this list of like people that I knew for a fact I could have on the show, and then people that I knew like once it got kind of bigger I could probably get on the show, and then some people that like were kind of like dream guests that like maybe eventually I'll get on the show.
Like who? Who's like a dream guest?
At the time like a dream guest would be, you know, like a crazy, you know, like a Kevin Hart type person. That was like on my brain list. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't really like manifesting writing it down. But there were some cool like Atlanta type people. Like there was this one guy that he actually has a crazy big YouTube channel now. It's called VinWiki, but it's a car YouTube channel. They tell car stories. But at the time, VinWiki didn't even exist, but I knew who this guy was. His name was Ed Bullion, and he had the record for the fastest time driving from New York to LA. It's called the Cannonball Run. And at the time, he did it way fast. He broke the record by a lot. And he was just kind of this like Atlanta, like mythical kind of dude that I knew through like going to Caffeine Octane, like that's Ed Bullion, he's fucking, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like, so like that type of guy was like the type of people that I didn't have the connections, but I knew that if I started the show, I could maybe make those connections. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like I could just DM him, but maybe if I got kind of close to him somehow I could.
Yeah, fair enough.
And, so anyways, I was just doing the show, and I was still working at the Escape Game place, and that was when I started kind of like thinking about eventually I'm going to probably want to have this on video, and I was not doing video editing at all. Like I was learning all of this just by like YouTube tutorials, and at the time I was only doing audio podcasts, so I wasn't even using like Premiere. I was editing in this software called Adobe Audition, and I was just making all the podcast promotion stuff like by myself on Photoshop. And I also like I needed a laptop at the beginning. I had like a shitty old laptop that couldn't do anything, so I invested in a laptop. I invested in my equipment, and that was honing my skills. I was having to Photoshop artwork every day. I had to build the Squarespace site that was gonna like host my show, and I had to figure out how to link it to iTunes, and you know, just all those little weird things you can only really learn through experience, you know. And finally, I did a podcast with this girl named Katia Sarmiento. She lives in Atlanta, and I met her through like this networking event that happened that Austin Distal, I think, invited me to. And it was like this entrepreneur meetup kind of thing, and it was actually hosted at her condo like complex. It was this cool luxury condos in Buckhead. And I remember I didn't actually speak to her at the event, but I like kind of connected with her on Instagram later. And I was like, hey, we didn't get to meet, but I'd love to have you on my show. And she was like, cool. Where do you do your show? I'm like, I come to you if that's cool. I already know where you live. I was at your condo. And she was like, perfect. I never fucking leave my house. And she's such a homebody. She loves her house, but she lives in this I remember walking in and just being like, damn. Because the party was not at her actual place. It was like in the little like club lounge area that like you could rent out.
Yeah.
Her apartment was on like the 15th floor of this awesome high rise and had like floor to ceiling windows, and it was like really, really nice. And I was like, damn, what does this girl do? The more I learned about her, the more I was like, this girl is awesome, like super just smart and just figures shit out, and stuff that she would just talk about like normal was like stuff that I was like, it was blowing my mind. You know what I mean? Like she was like, yeah, I don't want to cook, so I just have a personal chef. And I'm like, oh yeah, like duh. You know what I mean? Like and I have a ton of like dietary restrictions, so she just makes what I need. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And like, you know what I mean? And like, oh yeah, I wanted this, so I like built this like chat bot thing that like did it and automated it for me. And like, I was like, what? Like, huh? Like she was just speaking this other like language, but I knew enough of that side of things through Vima and through knowing those people that I was able to kind of speak that language. And during the podcast at some point, she was like, yeah, you should come. And I was like, oh, I can't. She's like, why can't you come? And I'm like, I can't leave work. And she was like, you have a job? And I was like, yeah, I have a job. And she was like, oh, I just figured you're an entrepreneur. And I was like, well, I'm kind of trying to be, but like, I don't have like a current venture. And she was like, oh, well, I'll help you. And basically after the podcast, she was like, yeah, come over like next week and I can like pick your brain and we can like figure out something you can do like entrepreneurial. You're like super smart. Like, you know, why aren't you doing this? And it was around that time that I also was watching this guy on YouTube. His name was Ryan McGinn. And he taught like men's style, like men's fashion kind of stuff. And it was like right after I came home from Spain, I remember like leaving Spain, just every day I would go out in public and feel like I was the most underdressed guy. Cause like everyone was always like dressed to the T, like looked super nice. All their clothes fit well. And I was wearing like baggy shorts, just looking like a loser. Like I remember every day just being like, I just want new clothes because I feel like a loser. You know what I mean? So when I came home, I was like determined to actually give a fuck about like what I wore. Yeah. And like, so I started watching this guy on YouTube, and at the time he was hosting this little mini conference in Tampa that was all about like personal branding and like how to, you know, grow your presence online. And I remember I was like, it was only like a couple $100 and my grandma lives down there. I like proposed to my dad. I'm like, hey, you want to like go down and visit grandma? I can like go to this conference for a couple days and you can hang out with grandma and we'll just stay with grandma and all this stuff. So I went to that and he taught me how to make these cool edited at the time, Instagram stories were like kind of new. And he was showing people how he was making these cool little short edited vertical Instagram stories with a GoPro. And at the time, I didn't even have a GoPro. Like I had an old GoPro, but he was using the GoPro Session, the little cube one, because it was very easy to mount vertically because it was a cube. You would just put it in the same exact cage, but you would just flip it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, all of your mounts, you could film in vertical. And this was like right around the time when like there was a lot of rumors about this vertical content becoming big. I think IGTV had like just launched.
No, way before
something.
Stories had just launched.
Yeah. I think Stories had been around, but like they weren't as big or something. Yeah. I can't remember. This was like 2017.
I know.
Yeah,
Instagram
You're right.
Stories.
You're right.
I remember when you started posting. No, because that's when I became obsessed with Andrew's content. Was when he started posting that shit. Like he'd be like in another country shooting vertical, like a fucking full on experience. Yeah, and it was like, whoa. No one's doing this.
Yeah, and I was doing that on Snapchat too, even. Yeah. So it kind of like carried over because with Snapchat, that was another fun thing I did. I printed out my Snapchat code on stickers, and I stuck them all over everywhere, all around the world. And so I got all these like unique followers because on Snapchat that was kind of like a real like hack, you know, because on Snapchat there's no discoverability. Now there kind of is, but like for example on Instagram it's very easy to find new cool people to follow because you can go on hashtags, you can go on location tags, and you can see what like the top people are like posting for those places, and I can tag you in my story, and so then someone checks out you, and you know what I mean. It's a very good platform for finding new shit, and Snapchat was not that at all. It was very like, you're going to post this thing for 10 seconds and then it's gone for forever. You know what I mean? And so there was no need for discoverability because you were just adding all your friends. And so it was cool because I stuck my sticker everywhere, and I would stick them in airports and get people from all over the world. And I would stick them in on a bus stop, and I would, you know what I mean? So I had all these really unique kind of people following me. So I was like, I'm just going to like show my journeys around, these countries and stuff that I was seeing. And a lot of my friends were in school still and they weren't traveling. So it was like cool for them. And so that was like, I kind of learned content creation there, like even more than just like, then the podcast came and all that. But I kind of like learned how to like make stuff for an audience, but I never invested in a camera. I never like properly built a YouTube channel. Like I had a YouTube channel, but I was just filming random stuff on my phone. And so basically I went to this conference. This guy taught us how to like make these cool little vertical videos, like almost mini, he called them vertical vlogs. They were like mini vlogs, he was like, make one every day, 15 seconds. That's all you can do. Just do that. Make a video every day. I challenge you, like make a video every day. You'll learn video editing. You'll learn content creation. People will start to like notice, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I took that to heart. Not very many people did. And I bought the GoPro that night that he told us which one to buy. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try this out. And I started making these like daily videos. And that's when and also because I was already paying for Adobe Audition and Photoshop through my podcast, I already had Adobe Premiere. So I was like, I might as well use this full suite of products to the best of my ability. So that was when I started learning video editing and actually shooting. So I was making all my videos on a GoPro or my phone and editing on this little laptop. And basically, like I said, that was kind of the time when I met Kat. So she like commissioned me to make like a couple of little videos that are now like hilarious because they're just such low quality. But at the time we were both so pumped about them. And, she was just running little ads with my videos. And I thought that was cool. Cause I'm like, wow, someone's running like paid traffic with a video that I made. And then, from there, I decided that I was going to get my first like real camera, and I bought like a $700 Canon 70D from my friend. He was upgrading to a Sony, and so he sold me that camera. So that was like my first my first introduction to a real camera, and that was at the time where Kat helped me figure out like you should start a business helping people start podcasts, which is such a cliche thing in the podcast world because that's like the only way that podcasters figure out how to make money because like they're not big enough to have ads yet. So they're like, I did it. I could help other people start this thing. It's like very meta. And then there's like coaches for podcasting coaches. You know what I mean? And it's like becomes hilarious. But I started a little mini business doing that. And then as I got more into video editing, I wanted to start my own like video agency kind of thing. I had like a few potential clients.
Fisheye.
Oh, the Fisheye lens too. I did that too.
No, what was the name of your company?
Oh, Eyes Ahead. Eyes Ahead
Okay,
Media.
That's what it is,
Eyes Ahead Media. I thought you were talking about something else. At one point, I bought a bunch of these little
fisheye lenses, and you fucking crushed with them, bro. Your story game was so strong.
I was posting on my story. I took these little fisheye lenses, and I would put them on my. It was like this little clip that would clip on your phone, and then all of a sudden, your phone had a fisheye lens, so you could make these really interesting stories with them. And I remember I bought like a bunch of them on this Chinese website called Deal Extreme. It's kind of like Alibaba, and I bought like a ton of them for like the more you bought, the better discount you got. And I ended up breaking even on it all because I sold just as much, and then I was left with a bunch of inventory that I couldn't ever end up moving. But I mean, it was fun, and I like learned about like that was my first like real kind of like e-commerce thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I was like selling them on my own. I don't even remember how I was selling them. I think I was like selling them on like a Wix site or something, and I'd figured out how to like open up a Stripe account or something. It was pretty funny, but
it's pretty sick though.
Yeah. So anyways, and I was like using my own audience to sell them, which is kind of cool. I never like ran ads or anything, but where was I?
Fisheye lens.
Yeah, I was making content, and so my friend Richard, who I had on the podcast, he's a paraplegic. He had an accident 10 years ago, And I met him through the podcast because my friend was like, hey, you should talk to this guy on your podcast. And at the time, I was down to do a podcast with anybody.
I remember.
I was just trying to do numbers.
Everyone.
I remember I remember.
Would you do that differently looking back?
No, I killed it.
Really?
Dude, I worked so hard on that podcast. I remember there were days when I literally drove all around town all day. I would record like 3 podcasts. Then I stayed up that night editing the one that I needed to release. Like my thing was like, I wanted to get to like 100 episodes as fast as possible. And before anyone like actually knew who I was, so that I could just iron out all the kinks and meet all the like make all the like smaller connections, and then bam, all of a sudden, like, who's this fucking guy? Like, how have I never heard of the show? He has 100 episodes, even though I did it in like 9 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that was kind of the like barrier that for whatever reason, 100 was like a really big milestone to me. So and I was like determined to hit it within like a year, which meant like more than 2 podcasts a week. So basically at the time and they were audio only in the beginning, so very minimal editing, you know. Anyways, so I met this dude, Richard, and at the time he was really wanting to share his story. He was inspired by a bunch of YouTubers and stuff like that, and he felt like he could bring value to people that were also like newly injured wheelchair users that had just gotten into an accident. Typically it's like young males that are involved in some sort of like accident, and they end up in a wheelchair at a younger age, and you feel like your whole life is taken away from you. You know, your dick doesn't work anymore. You're, you know, having to use catheters and stuff. You just feel like, what girl wants to date me? Like, you know, just a bunch of stuff. My health is bad now. How am I going to work out? So many things. And you have a close friend that is also
very
a paraplegic.
Close, yeah.
And very similar, you know, type of thing happens.
I think worse than Richard.
Yeah. Because Richard's, he fell. Chris is, I think, a little higher of an injury. And what was the accident? He was shot?
He got mugged, yeah.
He got mugged, yeah.
Shot in the back.
Fucking crazy.
Like, fucking how ratchet are people, man?
The crazy thing too with spinal cord injury, like, so many people don't even like really realize, but it's a crazy injury, and it's actually like, I mean, it can happen to anyone.
You realize your spine is actually your brain,
literally
just extended through your body.
Yup, literally, it's just a piece of your brain that's just going all the way down.
It, yeah. And
depending on where you get hit, that point down, you're affected. You know.
Yeah.
So. Needless to say, I've learned a lot about spinal cord injury over this journey. But basically, Richard and I started working together. He was my first like client with my video, you know, whatever. Like, basically, it started off with him and me. I remember the conversation actually. Kat was like, Richard, you're looking into hiring someone to make your videos because basically you have the money to like start this little venture, but you don't want to like actually edit it and take the learning curve to like figure this out. You'd rather just like, you know, have someone help you. Andrew, you're good enough at video that you're still learning, but you're good enough. You're way better than what Richard is, and you want to quit your job. How much money do you need to be making doing this podcast consulting and working with Richard to be able to quit your job? And I was like, this much. I don't even remember how much it was. It was like a couple $1,000. You know, how much do you need to make a month? And I was living at my parents' house, so like I was paying them. I think out of principle they were like making me pay rent, but it was like $500 or something. And I was like, I need to make this much. And Kat was like, Richard, how much money can you pay Andrew? And he was like, about this much. And she was like, Andrew, how much money do you think you can make on podcast consulting? And I was like, about this much. And she was like, quit your job. Like, the money is there. You just need to like do it. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. So Richard and I started working together, and basically it was like we were going to make.
Cat girl really affected you, huh?
She really did. I remember one night, like maybe it was like a year and a half ago. I remember like really having like kind of an emotional night of just like thinking about a lot of stuff. And I sent her like a really long voice note, like saying like how much I appreciated her and stuff. Cause she really did, like, she really changed my life in a lot of ways. And the cool thing is she's a systems coach. That's like what her like main venture is. She helps people, like, she goes into their business, basically is like, all of this shit is broken. Here is Asana. Here's Monday.com. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. And so I learned a ton about all of that side of the world, of the business world, through her. And that's actually, I think you mentioned to me like a couple of weeks ago or maybe a couple months ago about like, he's like, Andrew, the thing I really appreciate you about is like, not only do you have the like artistic side, but you're also like very organized, and you can like understand the importance of like scalability and things like that. And I credit a lot of that understanding to hanging out with her and just being around her and listening to her types of conversations. Because cool. I realized like, oh, if you can do so much as yourself, but if you can figure out a system and hire VAs and like do all this stuff, that was where I learned a lot from her, because I saw her doing this and I'm like, wow, you can actually build something. So anyway, I started working with Richard. He was basically kind of like my first like client, and then it became my only client essentially. Like my plan was to work with a bunch of businesses and, do video for a lot of people and kind of eventually build a team. But, it just became me kind of just doing it all. And I never ended up really like building the agency that I like wanted to build, like a media company that I really wanted to build. And I did do some consulting for a couple of companies, and like especially podcast type stuff, like doing a video podcast, because eventually I moved to video. That was it's logistically a lot. I mean, we're doing it right now. Like you can kind of imagine, like Terry, if you were like, if your boss came up to you and was like, hey, I want to do a video podcast. Can you do some research on like what we need? Like, there's a lot of very specific skill sets that you kind of need. Like, not only do you need to like know about like the hosting of it and how you're going to get it out there and how you're going to market it and stuff, but like you also have to deal with all the logistics of the physical equipment, and not only that, but the cost of it all, and the logistics of like, oh, are we going to do like a 3-camera setup? Like now we have to have 3 cameras, and who's going to edit it and who's going to make sure the audio sounds good. And, even just knowing all the camera settings that you need to know, like, it's just a lot. And, so basically I was able to come into like a few different places and help them, build out podcast stuff. And that was cool. But, it kind of just came into me and Richard just being really great business partners and building this YouTube channel for a long time. And we ultimately, I think our channel has definitely, I think we crossed 10 million views. I think we were at like 11 or 12 million views total on the channel, which was really cool. We had a really awesome video podcast. Eventually I kind of stopped doing my podcast because the Wheels to Walking podcast became like such a bigger audience that we transitioned. So then it was kind of a similar show to what we're doing right now. It's just always the same 2 hosts, me and Richard, doing a podcast every week about, just all kinds of stuff. And we grew that. It was really cool. I think probably the highlight of our like YouTube career was winning a Shorty Award, which is a lot of people still don't really know what that is, but it's basically it's like a private award ceremony, just like any award ceremony really is. It's not like the government or anything like that. So like, who's to say what the award really is worth? But it's cool because it's not just video. It's like the entire internet. So we were in the health and wellness category for YouTube, or for just in general. And there was like David Goggins was one of the competitors. Wow. Like,
and you won
the year before for health and wellness. Who won it? It's like oh my God, now I'm just like blanking and I'm just thinking of like Indian names, but it's like really big. Like, I think he's like an Indian guy. He has a really big channel. I can't think of the name. It'll come to me in a second. No, it was in Terry, can you look it up? Like Shorty Award winner 2019 health and wellness.
Indian.
It will be him. Yeah. Just cute SEO Indian. I don't even know if he's Indian. I could be totally wrong on that, but anyways, we won that, which was extremely cool, but that was during COVID, which kind of sucked because we didn't get to go to the actual ceremony and like meet all these other winners and stuff, which, kind of blew, but still really cool that we won. And yeah, it was just a wild riding that YouTube game of like views and, exposure and Instagram. And that was when I really like learned my chops of like editing, because I had to pump out a high quality video, not only filmed but edited, a thumbnail made, the IG promo for perfectly sized and aspect ratioed for Instagram, and all that kind of stuff. And I just got to kind of experiment, and that was right when TikTok came out. So I was like, Richard, we got to build a TikTok. He's like, I don't want to do another account. I was like, I'll run it. I'll post videos. All I did was recycle content. We did not film We maybe filmed like 2 original TikToks. We grew his TikTok to like 120,000 followers in like a month. You know what I mean? And like, you can still do that on TikTok, but this was like in the like kind of still really early days where it was really easy almost. If you just posted good stuff, you would just get views. But anyways, like stuff like that, I just got to play around, and that really like factors into exactly what I'm doing now. But anyways, I guess this all comes to a head when back in October of last year, Richard and I were kind of reaching this point where we were both like ready to, we wanted to like move to LA. We're going to move to LA. There's a bunch of complications. Richard's girlfriend, our leases, where we were living, you know, job and expenses and a bunch of different things. And so we both were just kind of in this consensus of like big life change. And then that was around the time I don't even remember. Do you remember how you approached me the last time?
I've been fucking approaching you. I've been approaching you for like 5 years, bro.
Eddie literally
believed in you when you didn't believe in you.
This is true. Tell this part of the story from your perspective, even like the 5 years prior, like of what you were trying to hire me and
dude,
like
just I believe in compounding events. I was like, if enough times I nicely have great conversations with Andrew, and I mentioned that whenever he's free, let me know. We should do something together, you know?
That was always like the ending. It was like, by the way, like, let me know. Like,
every time.
I love to work with you.
Every time.
And
it was
I was
my
always
call to action.
It was your call to action at the end of every interaction. It was like a good, I was always like appreciative. I was always like, dude, thank you. Like, I'm kind of doing my thing over here, but like,
I didn't want to push you. I was like, if you're ever.
But I also like didn't fully know what you were doing. Like we would kind of talk about it. I knew you were doing like marketing and ads and stuff, but like I didn't really fully like know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's even totally a different animal than it was 2 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, you were always ending it with your call to action.
That guy's name is Deitsch Eddie, by the way.
Deitsch Eddie.
Holy, that's a huge name.
Yeah. Really big, and it's bad that I couldn't think of it in the moment, and also bad if he's not Indian, but
he looks Indian.
Yeah. Like, I'm not racist for thinking that he's Indian.
His
Okay?
last name's
Maybe
Shetty.
He's from Bangladesh or like
Yeah, it's like in the area.
maybe, you know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the area.
That's pretty impressive. That's
yeah. But crazy. Yeah, it was really cool to see like the competitors we were up against, and when he's Hindu. Okay.
That's Indian.
Is that Indian?
And life coach of Indian descent.
There we go. I'm not a racist. Woohoo. Great job, Andrew. Not racist. But anyways, no, I remember when we found out that we got nominated for the Shorty Award because someone commented on one of our YouTube videos and told us.
No way.
Yeah.
That's how you found out.
That's how we found out. That's how organic it was. Like, there's so many PR type people that will be like putting your name into every fucking thing. Like, we didn't have that. Like, someone found us, someone nominated us. We don't know who. We really don't know who, still to this day.
If it was you?
If it was us or if it was just them, like, looking for people in that space and trying to find people that were shaking things up. And, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But anyways, like, so we were really, like, in our groove on that. And I can't remember the time that was, like, the last time where you hit me up, but it was...
We can probably find it on text.
It was probably on text or like Instagram, maybe even like replying to one of my stories or something.
Maybe.
I feel like that might have been it.
Maybe.
But it was something along the lines of like, hey, by the way.
Just a reminder.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something and you're like, you know what, this time I'm exploring options. I'm like, it's about time I got to sell this guy.
And see, the thing is that's you. That's also you being like a natural born sales guy. You know, you understand like, in order to close this guy, I'm probably going to need to have like 9 touch points.
Yeah.
And then on the 10th one, I close them.
On 30, even if that's what it takes.
And the thing is like, if it's 10 on average, for some it's 5, for some it's 20, you know, like.
Live with it, you know?
Yeah. So.
I followed up. My follow-up game is ridiculous.
Your follow-up game is on point for sure. Yeah. For sure. I'm sure that's
why we're married.
Yep.
Just follow up, guys. Like, it's so easy.
The fortune is in the follow-up.
That's it.
So yeah, we I remember from my perspective, I remember like you kind of telling me that you were building something and, you know, just like the fact that you had an opportunity. I can't even remember if you like fully pitched me in like a text form, but like I remember I came to this office.
Yeah, I was like, come check out the office and we'll talk there.
Yeah. I think you might have been like, I'm trying to build out a creative team and like you
Yeah,
seem
yeah.
like a good fit or something like along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, or I know you'd be a great fit. And yeah, I remember we met here right next door in the open area. There was no conference table, no glass wall, no green stuff on the wall.
No TVs.
No TVs. There was
no whiteboards.
There was, I think, maybe 1 or 2 standing desks that had been put together.
There was 2 double desks.
2 double desks that had been put together, and a few chairs.
Yeah, like 8 chairs.
And when and there was a case of water bottles in the corner.
A nice.
And I remember you kind of like jokingly were like, want a water? Like, but we also did want water, but it was like, that's all I have to offer here.
Yeah,
like, this is
yeah.
still being built, obviously.
Yes.
There
I
was
promise
paint cans.
I will pay you.
yeah. Like, there was paint cans everywhere. But the thing that actually was probably the biggest flex was the psych wall. Because I remember seeing the psych wall and being like, oh shit. Like, he's not like playing around. Like, this is like a legit studio in here. And at the time I didn't even realize that you guys had built that. I thought that was like there. And then you were like, no, my dad like built this. And I'm like, huh? Like, that's sick. I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, I just remember like really taking it in, and you kind of just like casting the vision for what 4MEDIA was going to be and like what this building was going to be. I think even maybe in those first conversations we had, you mentioned even this space next door. Like, the space next door is vacant. Like, eventually we want to like knock down the walls and maybe like build.
Crazy, huh?
Like, crazy that all of the stuff that we talked about is like actually it all came true. And
within 6 months.
Literally.
Crazy shit.
Literally crazy. Like, we met. My first day was like November 1st, I'm pretty
November
sure.
1st,
The second.
yeah.
I
November 2nd, because the first was a Sunday, I think.
Yep.
And in like April, we like moved into the next door, you know.
Fully like
something like
constructed,
that.
held
Yeah.
up by permits.
I remember.
We really would have moved in February if there's no like city
Yeah,
permit.
Yeah.
I remember the day that you came in, and I know that Eddie was kind of like hunting you for a while, because we met 4 years ago, and he would always, I met you at the gym one time. I don't know if you remember, but Eddie was like, this guy, he made gifts. Like, he is so talented. You should watch his stories. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Like,
I was a big fan.
Yeah. He hyped you up from the beginning. So the day that you came in to talk with him, I remember you guys were sitting in the back where we have all of our client stuff.
In the corner.
Yeah.
In the corner.
I think that was the second time I came, because
That
that
was
was
the second
it was
time.
the time that he was that we were, that
Because
was
you
like
were here that
finalizing the
time.
deal.
Yeah, I wasn't
The
here
first
the
time
first
you
time.
weren't even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't even.
Because
where
nobody
were
was
you?
in the office.
No, I remember that was funny, because you were like,
I
and he was like, Terry, and
She rolled back.
with my chair. I rolled from the main room
And I was
to
like,
the back room.
I know you're gonna love her. Like, you can already tell.
yeah,
Like,
she literally like rolled her rolly chair all the way to the back of the office, like all the way across the entire
I was
office.
like, hey.
Such a Terry move. Looking back, it's
We were
so
all
characteristic.
reclined. You
We were all
remember?
reclined,
We
and I
were all
remember Terry
reclined.
was mad at you for reclining all the way. She's
Yeah.
like, Eddie. You're like, what? The chair's reclined. I'm gonna recline. I'm gonna be comfortable.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
She's like, sit up. You guys are
Because to me,
having
but
a-
I was like,
Yeah.
this is an interview, like,
Yeah.
be
Be
proper.
formal. Yeah.
You got your legs up.
my babe, come meet Andrew. He's cool.
No,
Yeah, I
but
remember that.
we had like a good enough like friend relationship. Like, I
Yeah.
remember actually like working out with you too, like especially back like I don't remember.
You weren't fat.
No. But I remember like you were. I don't remember if it was like at your most jacked, but it was like right around that time.
Yeah.
You were working out at Lifetime and stuff too, because I think you were still at UGA when you were like at your like most jacked, right? Or was that after?
Yeah, I was at UGS.
Yeah. But I remember like you were like really jacked, and I remember like working out with you a few times and like learning new stuff. Like I remember I think we did like Romanian deadlifts or something like that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
and he's doing this. He's way more jacked than me. Like, maybe I should be doing this.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But so we already had like a good like friendly
yeah,
relationship.
for
It
sure.
wasn't like it was strictly just like
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Like, we always had like a good
and
a friend
in
relationship.
fairness,
Yeah.
now that I look back at it, like, I mean, it was like 3.5 years into the company as a LLC, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you came, but there was like no sense of safety of a job. You know, like think about it.
There was
desks
4 people in
and
this
8
office.
chairs. Like,
No, yeah.
Including us two.
Yeah,
Like,
it was not like, oh yeah, I'll be good for a year here. It's like, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing that
From
really,
an outside perspective, you know.
yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And that it was even like weird because to kind of finish that loop, I ended up right when we had those meetings, because like the first day was like, you know, it was like a, you know, let's say it was like a Thursday or whatever, and then we met again on like a Sunday. So it was like only like a few days in between. It was kind of like, hey, I'm gonna cast the vision, sleep on it, and I was kind of like, hey, I slept on it. Let's like meet again in person. We can talk like numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like closing the deal and accepting the position. And that was when I was kind of.
But still, though, it was still like.
It was still very tentative, and I remember I was nervous to explain it to Richard because I was basically quitting. And it was great because at the time he was, you know, in the middle of like kind of some life change stuff too. And he had actually rented like an Airbnb, like cabin in the woods kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he was like, I'm turning off my phone. I'm just going to like journal and like really try to like meditate on life and figure out. Yeah. There was like a lot of life change happening, and he wanted to like make sure he was kind of making a good decision. And very similar to me in the freaking train depot in the rain, he was just writing and trying to gather his thoughts and figure his shit out. And it was cool because we met at this coffee shop, and both of us came to that meeting knowing that we were gonna like leave this meeting in a very different place, because he kind of wanted to talk to me about kind of stepping away from YouTube for a little while and building something else. And I was talking to you and basically like ready to move on. And so it was kind of this like very bittersweet meeting where we just talked, because it was kind of like, hey, let's talk. Like those types of texts are always weird, you know. It's like a breakup. It really was like a breakup. And we broke up our podcast. We broke up everything. We broke up, and then
but on good terms.
On great terms. Like we're still really great friends. It was kind of wild, and like you said, no sense of like job security really. But I was kind of already used to like the weirdness of that, because
you've lived your life like that.
Yeah, I really have. Like Lifetime was kind of like the last like job like that I had. Obviously I worked at the escape game place, but that was also kind of a weird place to work too. Not in the sense that it wasn't like a secure job. It was a real job, but like it was who works in an escape game place? It's such an interesting job. So anyways, that was like super exciting, because the reason why I was so excited about 4MEDIA was like I saw what I wanted to build with eyes ahead, but I knew that I ultimately, to realize that goal, I was going to need to build all these other arms of the business. And I'd seen other people try to do that model while I was working with Richard, people that like started around the same time as me in the video world and stuff, building their own agencies. And I always saw certain pitfalls of like not having enough leads, like not having enough client work to like consistently make a living, or getting stuck just like not stuck doing weddings, but like some people just feel like they were like, that's the only way that I can like have consistent work, or like working for a client that ultimately was just like lame. You know what I mean? And I felt very blessed with Wheels to Walking. I was able to do so much cool shit. Like we traveled around the country doing awesome videos.
All the time,
we were doing really, really cool stuff on YouTube, like stuff that looking back, Richard and I both look back and are like, oh, we fucking did that, dude. Like that was wild that we did that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's this one video that I made in Texas. I can't even believe that I made it. Like I watch it and I'm like, this looks like a TV show. Like I filmed it all in one day and I edited it in a week. Like I'm like, damn. I was like, I'm fucking good. You know what I mean? I'm like a real client. Like if we were filming this like cool off-roading hunting type video, I was like, if like Ford came to me and wanted like a similar type video, I would probably charge like 20 grand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like I could be doing more and making more and all this stuff. But I ultimately kind of got stuck and just I still really value my time working with Wheels to Walking and doing all of that, of course. But I never got to like branch out and build like a client base and all that stuff. So when you kind of came to me, I was like, this is my opportunity to build that thing that I wanted to build on my own, but didn't have a sales funnel to like run stuff. And I didn't have like a team where, you know, a lot of video production companies are running into this problem where they make people want ads, but they have no way of like figuring out if they're going to work or convert or not. Like, they have no data. Like, all they know how to do is make a good looking video, but they're used to making like talking head documentaries or short films or music videos. And so when someone comes and says they want an ad, they don't truly even know how to market a product or position a product in a way that's going to actually make people pull out the credit card and buy. And that was what I like really appreciated about what 4MEDIA was, because I always had that side of my brain, but I didn't really like ever fully execute into like e-com or like product based stuff in a full way. So that I was like very excited to kind of like get into that space too. But also I saw that there was a framework of a team, and I saw like, oh, I could like build this thing and build a team that I was like excited to build. Cause I was kind of, that was the other thing, is I always wanted to kind of like oversee a bigger project that was doing a lot of things, and I wasn't having to be the one that was just editing this
Doing
video
everything.
for 100 times. You know what I mean? Like by the time I was done working with Wheels to Walking, we'd edited hundreds of videos, you know, all this stuff. Like, I've put in the time in Premiere. Like, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
So it was like, I that was becoming boring to me. I needed to like move on. So that was kind of like, I guess the long story of how I got to 4MEDIA. And now we're here.
It's like, if you want to know more about me, though, go to
If you
my
wanna
podcast. What was that? I'd say that was a good
Hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
You get your own episode, bro.
I know, right?
How about this?
No, but I was
how
going to
about-
say we could chop it in two if you want.
I was gonna say, for the mercy of our listeners, we should chop this into two.
Sure. Let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the 4MEDIA Uncut podcast. If you want to work with us, learn with us, or even join the team and be a part of what we're doing at 4MEDIA Marketing, just go to our website. It's 4media.marketing. No .com, no .net, .marketing, because that's all we do around here. And most importantly, share this with a friend wherever you're listening to or watching this on. Please hit that share button, send it over to a friend, someone else that you think will get value out of this. It would mean the world to us.
And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video and comment down below any suggestions for future guests. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please rate this 5 stars and leave us a review there. That helps us tremendously in the algorithm world. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of 4MEDIA Uncut Podcast.